Nerds, I'm here with Joaquín Vázquez from the San Diego area, I think, who's running for Congress. Hello, nerds, and welcome to the show, Joaquín.
Hi, Tom. Hello, nerds. Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
So I saw you were on Twitter, and then you created an ofthepeople.us account, which is linked to in the description below. If people want to get to know you more, or if they like what you're saying, they want to approval vote you, so you can kind of become a trending candidate on that list. But before we get into it, why don't we start with a little bit of background on who you are, and then we can talk about policy and the race.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in San Diego. My both parents are immigrants from Mexico, and when I was 10 years old, back in 2000, my father was deported. That immediately made my we got evicted, and my mother, my six brothers, and I ended up homeless. So really, we got to see what and experience what it is to hit rock bottom right by no fault of our own at a very young age. That right there was, I think, very crucial for me. I remember in elementary, as a kid, I don't know, I was probably quite spoiled by my dad, but we learned things the hard way. And those two things, with immigration and housing, has been front and center for me as far as issues that I want to help alleviate in our country, in my district. I've been working as of throughout the pandemic, helping tenants, small mom and pop landlords make ends meet, getting access to the emergency rental assistance program so they can have funding right to get back on track with their lives. I've been helping through Border Angels as their community engagement director before launching my campaign, helping migrants in the San Diego Tijuana communities, uh, taking groups of folks all the way to the border, to the desert, where we have migrants crossing, leaving, dropping off resources for them, life-saving resources for them, humanitarian aid, also with shelters in Tijuana. And so that's a little bit of the background that I've most recently been doing. I also have been working in the past with the Obama administration in DC on economic policy, trade policy, labor policy, environmental policy, really ensuring that anything that we do in trade and economics policy has strong labor and environmental protections. I don't come from money. Born and raised in City Heights. City Heights is the most diverse community in San Diego. I'm running for CA 52 in San Diego. It's the border district. It's the very last congressional district of the state of California. It's ground zero for what's happening in the border, but it's also San Diego's working class district. And for it to be San Diego's working class district, we don't see working class families being uplifted, elevated. In fact, we have a representative, Juan Vargas, who has a record of working with, maybe the most despised Republican Congress member ever, Daryl Issa. At times, he's turned his back on Democrats themselves to work on his proposal for an immigration bill instead of the competing bill that the Democrats have proposed. Right, his biggest funders are the insurance companies, uh, real estate, right, and also has a track record for funding from private prison companies, who are the ones that are running the migrant detention camps where migrant women have been sterilized without their acknowledgement, without their consent, where children continue to this day to be caged and separated from their families. So that's some background. That's why I'm running. I want to make sure that we are actually doing what we're supposed to be doing in Congress, instead of having somebody that is just comfortable in his seat after 3 decades of as a career politician.
So, Joaquin, the immigration topic is definitely a complex and nuanced one, and one where, my parents immigrated from another country, and I'm very grateful that they did that, because I feel like the life I have now, would not be possible if they didn't make that decision, and this country didn't give them that opportunity. I'm also curious, how do you find is there like a balance to this? You know, surely the country cannot support unlimited um, entry. And how do you think about that living, you know, in a border area? How do you find uh, you know, your humanity, but also practically speaking, you know, thinking about policy that's sustainable?
I think that last word you just said, sustainable, is key here. Uh, our country has a long history of meddling in the affairs of other governments, right? The more we do that, the more we are destabilizing regions, the more migrants that we keep seeing at the border. And that's what we deal with here in San Diego every year. Every year, when there's something happening, whether if it's a natural disaster, whether if it's anything to do with political unrest, uh, uh, whether if it's an economic or a financial crisis, right? That hits our door. One thing that I think people across the country need to understand is that most migrants don't want to come here and stay here. They want to come. They want to earn some money, especially folks from Mexico. They want to earn some money. They want to have that ability to move back and forth. But our immigration system makes it so hard for them to be able to do that, especially if you're coming from black or brown countries. Uh, so they decide to stay here. What we've seen a lot through the Trump administration, a lot of the people that were out here that said, "Hey, you know what? Um, we're here to earn some money and send it back home, but we have to stay because it's going to be really hard for us to come back whenever to go back and forth, right? Even if they try to seek what our legal process currently allows for them to be able to do." So a lot of those folks just fled. We had an outpour of migrants, that working class migrants that have been working from anywhere from restaurants, the fields, janitors, a lot of the jobs that a lot of Americans do not want to do, and that's a fact, right? And so those people really, my family, my friends' family, everyone that makes it out here, uh, that makes their way up here, they don't really have intentions of staying too long. They want to be able to come and go as many other races, especially white folks, as Europeans have the ability to do, go back and forth between their countries instead of staying here. And so that's something that we need to be very, very careful with, and intentional when we're talking about immigration, to ensure that we are letting people know that, right, that they know that not everyone just wants to come here and stay. uh, if you ask uh, folks outside of my family, even in our communities, that just made it, that just came to San Diego, or that were out here just for a very brief time, they're like, you know what, I don't like it out there. The vibe is different. The culture is different. A lot of people are just like, hey, you know what, I'm just working and I'm saving up so I can go back home and have a better chance at maybe building a home, out there, buying a car, just be a little bit better off, right? Uh, and so it's not necessarily unlimited immigration. Now, that's as far as of what folks are looking for. As far as what we can be doing to to address this problem also, and have more sustainable policy, is really ensuring that we keeps our hands out of what's going on in other countries, and throughout Latin America. If you talk about the U.S. out there, they know that the U.S. government, from the DEA, from different agencies, they're always meddling, whether if it's in their elections, whether if it's in their society, right? Whether if it's laws and the interdependence, right? The economic interdependence that we have with them, that we really have laws that are oppressing those economies, right? Uh, if we have a more humane, right, we really get in touch with our humanity and start addressing the issues at the very bottom, at the very root, then we will be doing things differently. I talked about trade and economic policy, right, and I'm really talking about global economic policy here as well, where We have the lowest environmental protections and the lowest labor protections for trade agreements for when we're trading with other countries, right? And so not only that, but when we have our multinational corporations going abroad, we let them do as they please. We have a history, and there's documentaries about this also, where you have, for example, Walmart going into a country, getting all the concessions that they want. The country, those countries, thinking that Walmart is going to really not only provide jobs but pay a fair share of taxes and help uplift those communities. But then once things start getting rough, they pull out, and all of those concessions, the roads that they build around them, the buildings, they're all left there to rot, right? And they take their money and they head out. They pack up and they go to the next country, the next city, the next state that that they can go take advantage of and really mess things up there. So the less we are messing with other countries, the less migration that we will be seeing coming from the south or coming from other places as well, right? Now, there's a lot that we can't fully control for, but we we do not have the luxury of saying, hey, you know what? We don't know why these people are coming, because we do know. Every single person that goes through, that gets to the college education, understands and sees it. Every single person that comes from those countries, that has family or family or people here that has family that comes from those countries, we understand and we're told, we know what's going on, we see the news, what's going on, right? And so we can't pretend to we don't have the luxury to pretend that we don't understand why we have so many people coming to our borders. It's real, it's there. What we need to be doing is proactively really knocking down these these laws that we have, right, that are really rooted in white supremacy, really rooted in colonial sort of like capitalism mentality.
So Joaquin, I was looking at the district. It seems like it leans pretty strong Democratic. So this is going to be one of those things where the primary will probably be a big determinant. Tell me a little bit about why you think the incumbent Vargas, who is a Democrat and presumably he supports like progressive things, why he isn't, why you'd be a better representative than him.
Straight up, I don't take any corporate money. I don't have strings on me that are telling me, hey, you know what, you got to focus on this or here. Uh, Off the bat, when you're running for office, who donates to your campaign is who's going to be pulling your strings. We know that. We can't pretend to not understand that concept, right? You have lobbyists from private prison companies, lobbyists from the insurance companies, keep stopping any progress on something like uh, Medicare for all, for example. Lobbyists that are fossil fuel industry lobbyists, sending money to campaigns like Juan Vargas, right, that are stopping any progress on like a Green New Deal, right? We have major environmental catastrophes here at the border. We're dealing with the Tijuana River Valley estuary, right, as well. We don't see any progress. We only see promises, right, or very half efforts, very just small little incremental efforts from folks like my representative Juan Vargas, just to appease the masses. But when you talk to people and you're asking them like, what do you think has changed in the last 10 years? People straight up say things like, well, it's getting harder to pay the rent, so it's getting harder to make ends meet. Those are the type of things that are changing. They don't give me examples of good changes, and people are exhausted. People are really exhausted from struggling to make ends meet.
Joaquin, could you give me an example of something where you've seen um, Representative Vargas vote one way where you would have been like, oh, I would have voted a different way, or I would have done something differently? I get the argument that he's raising a lot of money, and I'm sure there's some corporate money in there. But do we have any evidence that it would have changed his votes or his priorities or how you would be different if you were in his seat?
Yeah, and I'd say before I get into that, that it's not an argument of whether if he's raising a lot of money or not. That's not
Hmm.
the problem. The problem is where are you getting that money, right? And it shows where his priorities are. I mentioned him getting money from private prison companies that are running the migrant detention centers. Uh, Through that time, he was not standing up to to uh, to shut down, for example, those detention centers. Why? Because his funders are basically telling him, "Hey, you know that's it, we're funding you so that you can stand in the way of that, right?" And so that's one thing. A lot of it is in action because he is being paid to stand in the way. We have other things like uh, we're pressing hard for the Green New Deal, for example, yet he's got fossil fuel money coming in also, and we're not getting the resources that we can get. We need, for example, $600 million to clean the Tijuana River Valley estuary. It's a major part of our district here, waterway, and it is full. It's filled with toxins. It is filled with chemicals and dangerous uh, 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 items that hurt our environment here, that hurt our community. Right? It's all in the air that we're breathing out here, and so these are things where he could be taking on a stance and say, "Hey, you know what? Let's go get that," but he's not doing it. Why? Because of the funding that he keeps getting. Now, when it comes to other issues, for example, supporting the LGBTQIA plus community, this guy just last September, was out in Europe at a anti-LGBTQ conference held by white right-wing nationalists. He was an actual guest speaker for that conference, right? And so that's definitely something I'm not going to go around doing and be supporting right-wing, neo Nazis in their conferences while they're talking about, uh, you know, uh, how can they infringe upon the rights of the LGBTQIA plus community? I'm a big supporter of that community. I have family, friends uh, that I really love, and I want them to be able to express their love and be able to be who they want, right? Marry who they want. Uh, it There's nothing that I can say as far as like nothing more that I can say as far as like how wrong that is, right? Uh, what we've seen also is that since I started running against Juan Vargas in the last 2 months, he started shifting from being a blue dog, New Dem conservative Democrat to a progressive Democrat. He changed his logo twice. He rebranded himself twice. He's been supporting more eagerly the progressive caucus. He joined the U.S. Progressive Caucus that has moved to the center, if not further, because they've been having Democrats like him who have been Nancy Pelosi's, sort of like right hand congresspersons, right? And so we're seeing a lot of the shifting. I'm in a way saddened that it took a progressive challenge for him to start saying, "Hey, you know what? These are issues that people care about. Let's champion these." Um, but we also understand that he has a record of dishonesty. Uh, just a couple of years ago, he was at a rally where uh, an activist called him out on his actual financial or his fundraising, right, from his money that he's been taking from these companies, Core Civic and Geo Group, that are running the migrant detention camps, while he's telling people that he supports the migrant communities. Uh, on stage, he was called out, and on stage, he lost it. He got extremely angry and frustrated, called the activist a liar, saying that he does not take any of that money. The activist took the mic, brought out the phone and showed him on screen the record of the money that he's been taking from these companies. It takes that level of action. It takes a campaign. It takes something big for him to understand and say, hey, you know what? This is probably something I shouldn't be doing. For him to actually do something. The guy's been in office uh, throughout his career, his political career for 30 years. You understand what people need. You understand if you're in the district that it's ground zero for what's going on, what the tragic sort of happenings that we've been having at the border because of flawed policy from the Trump administration, from administrations past, and even from what's happening right now. You understand what the people want. But if you're not doing it, and you don't even come out to talk to your constituents, you don't even come out to see where you can support, other than going to the fancy galas, other than going to fancy dinners and meeting with the elite of the area. The guy doesn't even live in his district, in the district that he represents, much less the district that he's going to start running for again, or that he's running for again, with redistricting. So people are tired. Yesterday I was at Earth Day Fair, and I'm talking to a community organizer. This lady is in her 60s, and said, "Hey, you know what? I've been organizing for 41 years, and at times I've organized with Juan Vargas as well. Every time we ask him to do something, he does something his way, but really doesn't get to meet our needs. We still collaborated with him, continue to work with him, but it is time. It's time to get some new blood. It's time to get the new generation to lead, because all of the issues that we've been facing, we're facing them exponentially now, and so it's time."
Have you had an opportunity to get on the debate stage with Vargas? Is that planned? I'm not sure what's lined up prior to the primary.
You know what? He has a history of not wanting to show up to debates, and he ignores completely his challengers, which is fine. He's never had a challenger like me, and we have a very strong grassroots movement. Everything from folks that are working in the civic engagement organizations, from activists, a lot of people outside of the party circles, and we are really the folks that are on the ground all the time. Really helping our families, helping our community, making community, helping them with mutual aid efforts, helping with what's needed at hand, right? And so we're very confident not only that we're going to make it through the primary, but that in November we're going to win. We really want to make sure that we get as many people out to vote, because the political apathy in this country, it's truly saddening, right? People are discouraged from having time and time again folks like even our president right now that campaign on certain issues and make certain promises, and they don't come through. We've been advocating for the 100% cancellation of student debt, and what are we getting? Crumbs. So
I'm super curious about, you mentioned the incumbent typically avoids, debates and things like that. Can't the party compel all candidates to participate in some forums in order to support democracy and choice, things like that? Like, is your expectation that he just won't ever debate before November?
yeah, ideally that would be amazing if the party had the courage to actually compel all candidates to debate, but that's not the case.
Yeah, that is, I guess, for the Andrew Yang fans out there, this is another example of how sometimes these parties they don't seem to encourage a lot of competition within the ranks. It's always about against the other party. That's unfortunate. So, how is it going so far, Joaquin? Like, are you able to get out there and make contact with people? it sounds like you're not going to be able to spend, hundreds of thousands on, radio ads and TV ads and things. What's your plan?
I'm really happy with what we're doing. Look, we have phone banking, we have text banking. We're also doubling down on email campaigns. I ran last time against Susan Davis, another corporate dem that was quite entrenched. She wasn't doing well as far as uh, the support. She was actually being forced to come down to San Diego and have debates. And there was another candidate at the time when we first were challenging Susan Davis that wasn't having any success in getting her to come down to debates or forcing the party to do that. But my approach was different. With kind of what you just said, we're supposed to be supporting democracy, having people really having giving people the option, right, and having them learn about the different options that they might have, to hear the different perspectives from different candidates. And after the first half of the year in 2019 and that 2020 election, uh, she said, you know what, I'm going to step back. Uh, Her legacy was a lot more important to her than continuing to represent the district that she needed to be doing more for. And We learned a lot in that election. I don't come from political circles. I don't come from the party ranks. I don't come from the different party cliques. And I did have a lot of pushback. But as we got closer to the election, I gained a lot of their support, a lot of their respect, and that's what has been also a lot of the strength that we've been carrying in this election this time around. As soon as I ran, I got phone calls, I got text messages, emails, people just saying, "Hey, Joaquin, we're really happy that you're doing this." Former candidates that ran in that race that I was running last time, once the incumbent dropped out, there was like at some point 20, early in the low 20s, 22, 25 candidates. So I have 5 candidates also that have endorsed me that are joining me in this effort in this campaign, from hosting fundraisers to helping me knock on doors, to talking to their coworkers, talking to the community, their family. So it's really been a very humbling experience. As I've told you, I'm an activist. I'm a community organizer at heart, and so I am not ashamed or discouraged at all from going out there, knocking on those doors, talking to people on the ground, and that's what we've been really focused on.
Well, that's super impressive that you're picking up some endorsements from former competitors, and you're out there, causing some good trouble. This is great. Great to see. You did mention Biden, and I'll be honest. I am a bit of a moderate, so I might be one of those corporate Democrats that you talk about. But I'm curious, like I do feel like people are, maybe he doesn't get as much credit as he potentially deserves. Like he helped push through a historic infrastructure bill. He's helped support a lot of cash relief, particularly with families with children. He's brought a ton of diversity to his team and to the Supreme Court. He's not on Twitter causing a lot of drama all the time. Uh, this feels like a
That's a win,
very,
huh?
this is a big upgrade from the predecessor. What's your, it sounds like you're not thrilled with him, but what's your kind of general assessment with Biden so far, and what would you like to see change going forward?
Honestly, I see what's going on, and what people are tired of is the gaslighting, the dishonesty, right? I think that he's been doing some really good things, but we can do a lot more. They're more focused on reelection, as always, as every career politician, focused on the reelection, focused on winning the other side. When it comes to political parties, uh, my take is very different. My approach is, we understand that both parties are funded by the same giant corporations, right? By the same interest lobbyist groups. So even though as I'm running as a Democrat, really I'm putting people over party, country over parties, instead of engaging and fighting in those, party discussions about what party might be best or the other. No, we really got to look at what's going on, and we see the haves versus the have-nots, right? One of the reasons why we had the Bernie Sanders movement in his last two elections for president, he was able to galvanize people on the right, people on the far right, to understand, open their eyes, and see what is actually going on in this country. And so, once we're honest, we're genuine with people, and we tell them, hey, you know what, this is what I actually promised to do, and we start doing it and coming through with our promises, then you can continue to gain people's trust and not only gain it, but retain it, right? And unfortunately, with issues that are close to me, that impact my family directly, that impact my community, my district directly, Biden has fallen very short. We've pressed them on ending Title 42, for example, a Trump era policy that doesn't even give the same rights to brown and black migrants as they do for white migrants, right? We see the crisis right now with the Ukrainians at the border right now, who are organized and able to be provided the resources that they can, and they continue to take hundreds of them through the border on a daily basis, and so it's not the same system that they set up for the migrant caravans from Central America, for example, from the Haitians, right, Cameroonians, and so these are the things, right? We see the double standard when it comes to race. We see the outright gaslighting of our communities, of our demands, and the things that were promised. So it's all the bait and switch, right? Yes, I think that there are things that are good that he's been doing, but there's a lot that he can be doing with a stroke of a pen that he is not wanting to do, and that really reflects his values. And so, for me, going into Congress, I'm really like that set on going in there and shaking things up, making sure that we're not upholding the status quo, because the status quo is rooted in racism, white supremacy, and the oppression of marginalized communities.
Well, Joaquin, I want to get to some audience questions in the live chat. So this one's about housing and property. Do you think billionaires would purchase property in your area to avoid paying taxes, driving up housing costs and cost of living? Like, what's your take about this question? And in general, I noticed one of your policy priorities was housing for all. Like, how do you think that should work? And what's going on, in your district today?
I mean, yes, that's what they're doing. That's already what they're doing. If we go east in my district, there's a lot more affluent communities up there. Uh, all of it, every time we have more affluent families and people coming into low income communities, we see the immediate displacement of low income families. We see the immediate gentrification of those communities. When I was a kid, we grew up in right outside of downtown San Diego, in a neighborhood called Sherman Heights. That's where I went to my first elementary school. It was a very brown, diverse, also community, low income community. We very diverse. I said brown, but it was very diverse. Now it's a very Caucasian, middle income to upper income community where if you're walking around, you're low income and you're walking around there, people might call the police or might just take an issue with it, thinking whether you belong there or not, and whether you're maybe out there to steal or do something else, right? As is sort of the stereotype with my community, right? Those people moved in, to City Heights. Those people are being displaced to not only other parts of the district, inner parts, because it keeps getting more and more expensive to live in San Diego, but a lot of those people are moving south of the border. that they're becoming part of this trans-border community that is invisible to in the eyes of our laws and our policies, our politics, and in the eyes of the elected officials that we currently have. Uh, if elected to Congress, I would be the first trans-border community member ever to go to Congress and address these issues, much so. So yes, I absolutely think that if billionaires move into the district, uh, you know, they already don't pay their taxes, so their fair share of taxes. So uh, wherever they move, if they're buying houses, they're going to be displacing people if it's not already a community of other billionaires.
One thing I didn't notice on your website that I thought might be I would have almost expected to see it since given your other policy positions is support for universal basic income. And I'm curious, have you thought about it, and do you think there's a place for that in your district?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would make life a lot better for a lot of San Diegans and people in my district in general. Uh, Sometimes, one of the things that I'm advocating even right now throughout the pandemic is $2,000 monthly checks. Uh, it's just across the board, right? No means testing, just give people checks, help
Hmm.
them get back on their feet. And I think that any policies that really going to help us out, uh, uh, you know, get back on our feet even stronger than before this global pandemic is good policy, and it's policy that we should be really pressing for. If you go to my website, it's under the economic justice. It's at the bottom, but it's also an issue that is not really discussed here in San Diego, uh, and so it's sort of kind of easy to just sometimes leave it out if it's not something that people are discussing. But I'm happy to be the only candidate in my race. We have the incumbent, myself, and a Republican who's not even campaigning. We don't even have a picture of him on Ballotpedia, for example. Or any other information other than the fact that he lives in Fallbrook, which is 2 districts north of where we are. Uh, and so I'm the only candidate that does have UBI as part of the platform. Uh, and so it's something again that was really exciting to see uh, Andrew Yang support. I think that's something where a lot of people across the country understood that and saw that he has a really good understanding of what's going on, right? The economic inequality that we're facing throughout the country, the widening gap between the rich and the poor. Uh, Programs like these will be quick programs that we can start having, enacting, implementing right away to help people pay for the rent, to help people, pay for gas to go to work, to go to school, and pay, their bills. And so I'm a big supporter of UBI. I really want to make sure that once we get to Congress, we at the very minimum start implementing something like the monthly checks, right? If we can do that right now, if I can press Juan Vargas on this issue, if I can press him on supporting this and have him tweet out just as he's doing it with the other issues that I've been pressing on, uh, canceling student debt, for example, ending Title 42, for example, if I can press him and we can get the ball rolling and have that happen even before I'm elected, even throughout the campaign trail, that is already a win.
Yeah, so I stand corrected. It is on there. My bad. I missed it. And I've added UBI as a tag to your of the people profile so people can
Thank
see
you.
that you're a UBI supporter.
I
You
know
know,
that
you su-
my issues, they're very thorough. Each tab has a lot, and so it's something that I get commended also because I'm being very straightforward with everyone and telling them, hey, you know what, this is what we actually need, and so I'm not just gonna put buzzwords in a small 1 or 2 sentence paragraph,
Mhm.
right? People are gonna get
Yeah,
what
no,
they
it's
need.
great. It's great. I mean, it's very thorough and quite detailed. So each of those issues has a dedicated section. Um, There's a lot of issues that you care about, Joaquin. If you had
And
to prioritize, what do you think you would spend most of your time on?
criminal justice, housing, and economic justice. I
Hmm.
think those all of those hit every corner of all the other issues. If we're talking about the Green New Deal, for example, we're talking about transforming our economy, right? And so that's economic justice, housing, ending homelessness. As a formerly homeless child at the age of 10, uh, it's really important for me that we do everything we can to end homelessness. It's something that we continue to see, sort of the homeless industrial complex uh, continue to thrive. We keep having developers push politicians to build more, to build more, to build more, and having small percentages of those buildings be affordable housing. And those affordable units are only affordable to the very thin, small line of, or the highest income earners of the lowest income tier, right? And so we don't have most of the working class people, most of the low income people being able to pay for even those housing, for those small units that they have to compete for. For example, 8%. If we have a 200 unit a building, you have people competing for just that 8%. It's ridiculous. It's sad. We have people driving off in BMWs and Mercedes, and that's great that people have those cars. But if we are being told that an affordable housing complex is going to be built, and we have those people driving out that are clearly more affluent, then what's going on here, right? Uh, my hope is that we enact rent control, universal rent control at a 3% across the country, uh, and that we are actually being honest with people when we're talking about building affordable housing. Uh, there is a lack of housing, but we also have, for example, just in the city of Chula Vista, we have 300 plus family homes that are just on the market. Those homes are already and that keeps increasing as people are being evicted throughout these times during the pandemic. uh, we need to be able to find a middle ground and figure out how can we house the people that we have right now. We have families with their luggages. You come down to San Diego uh, anytime, and I'll show you, the different pockets, different areas, the different streets in our district where there's families in their cars, their neighbors on the street, off the sidewalk, in their cars with their luggages, in their cars, fully filled with their belongings. And their story is very similar. They lost their job. Uh, they haven't been able to pick up work again because they have a history of being unemployed now. If it's months or if it's a year and a half, uh, and they have all of their belongings, their luggages, their kids with them, uh, still, just begging for help, with, and it's sad that they have to be begging when it's something that elected officials can just snap their fingers almost and make things happen for them, house them, provide actual shelter, and provide wraparound housing for them. So I'm really a big proponent for housing first, the housing first approach, having wraparound services for them as well. That includes counseling, that includes health checkups, that includes job training, education, right? There's so much that I can say about housing as a homeless advocate, also as an immigration. So much that I could say on immigration as well. So yeah, so those are some of the issues that I really focus on.
Well, Joaquin, it has been a very informative and a great discussion. It's been great to get to know you better and your views on some of these policies. We're a little over time, so we need to wrap up. Maybe my last question is there anything else you want to say to the audience for those who are watching live or this on replay? now's your time.
Yeah, look, the elections are coming here in San Diego. In California, it's June 7th. Uh, it's really, really important that you get out to vote. I know that these times have been some of the hardest times that we've seen during our time, our era, these last couple decades. Uh, but even as all of these tragedies keep happening to us, um, one thing that we can do to make a difference is go out and vote. If we don't get out and vote, uh, things are only going to get worse. They're not going to stay the same. They're going to get worse. Uh, and so, talk to your friends, talk to your family, uh, learn about the different candidates that are running, the different down the ballot, issues, initiatives. Check out my website, see what we're doing, why I'm running, my story. My story is not a unique story. Really, it's a story that is shared by a lot of the CA 52 residents. Um, so get involved, and also in between elections, organize, organize, organize. I'm the executive director and founder of Organizing for Progress. We do a lot of trainings there. Really, our focus is to increasing civic engagement, having a lot more people get involved in the community at every level of government. Uh, and I feel I'm a true believer that if we get a lot more people involved, especially working class communities, uh, our issues are going to be reflected in the policy that our newly elected officials are going to be introducing, whether if it's at city council or in Congress. So check out my website. My name is Joaquín Vázquez. I'm running for Congress in California's new 52nd congressional district, covering all of South Bay from City Heights down to Barrio Logan, Southeast San Diego, all the way to the border communities of San Isidro, Otay Mesa, Imperial Beach, National City, and Chula Vista. Check us out, joaquinvasquez.com, and also check out the description down there with some of the handles for our social media. Tom, thank you so much for having me. This was a really lovely discussion. I really appreciate the invite, and I'm really happy to be here right now. And if you want to have me later on, we can do it again. Uh, Thank you again.
I loved it, and thank you for taking time out of your Easter Sunday to talk about these issues. And I know I'm sure you have a lot of other things that you could be doing, and it's great to have a open-ended discussion. And would definitely love to have you back. Maybe after the primaries, you can give us a
Absolutely.
little update on how things are going.
Absolutely. Thank you again. It's all about uplifting our communities. So that's priority.
With that, I'll just say goodbye, nerds.
Goodbye, nerds.
Thanks, Joaquin.
Thank you.
See you later, buddy.
See ya.
All right. That was Joaquin Vázquez. Um, Pretty good candidate. Smart guy. Uh, he's a humble man. He actually has a master's degree in public policy and administration from Northwestern. So I think that explains why his website's a little more thorough than a lot of candidates. We didn't get to fully nerd out. Maybe next time we get Joaquin on, we can talk about some of his favorite classes at Northwestern and maybe some thought provoking policy research. Um, Before we wrap up this show, it's time to give a shout out to members of the channel as well as some trending OTP candidates. Um, Joaquin is not a trending candidate. He's one of our newest candidates on OTP, but hopefully, you guys, if you like what you saw, go ahead to his OTP profile on ofthepeople.us, and there's a link below, and you can just vote to approve him, and that'll boost him in our rankings. Before we get on to OTP, we gotta give a shout out to the people that make NFH, Nerds for Humanity, possible, and those are our channel members. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't, but you were thinking about it, just click on that join link and you can become a member too. And it basically supports us creating more content like this, and just keeping the lights on. So first of all, we need to start with our biggest supporter, who is Soldier One, our senior executive vice president. Sorry, Soldier One. He's been supporting this channel for 2 years. So thank you, Soldier One. At the VP level, we have Kristen Slevin, Bike, and Stephen Jones. Kristen's been supporting the channel for 27 months. Bike 17 and Stephen Jones 3. And just great to see that level of support, even though I know nerdy policy discussions aren't always like the hottest things on social media. At the hardcore level, which is right under VP, you've got Gene, David, DK, Jackalego, Kirsch, Mr. History, Byron, Mona, Susan, Vaughn, Yang, Tony, Robert, Dean, Statner, Galessa, Jay Perrin, AH, Jay Bryan, Vivian, Dana, Jason, Parth, and Danielle. Sorry, Daniel. Not Danielle, Daniel. Daniel's a very new member, only 2 weeks old. So welcome to the nerd zone, Daniel. And then at the verified level, I think Daniel also is associated with StreamYard, which is what we're using today to stream this live stream. And I think StreamYard's going to help defray some of the costs of me using their software. So appreciate their support. And then let's see. We did the hardcore. Now we do the verified nerds. The entry level, still super important. Lisa, Albert, Brandon, Peter, Erez, your mom and Sophia, Mike, Jedwiga, Doris, Emerald, Ben, Rasta, James, Emma, Hui, Ira, Shoni, Jameson, Doctor, William, Karen, Monica, Arden, Zemery, Mai, David, Brittany, Alexandra, Juana, Warren, Lucky, and Kevin. And now let's give a shout out to our oldest members overall. Those would be the 27-month-olds. Lisa, Jean, and Kristen were our first 3 members. And then Albert and Brandon soon after. And then Peter and Erez and David. Wow, 27 months. And your mom. And then our youngest members, unless someone clicks join on YouTube while I'm reading this, are Daniel, Stephen, and Kevin. So those are our youngest. Now, let's talk about some other candidates that are doing interesting work that you may want to research and see if you want to support them. And the tool we're going to use is the nonprofit of the people.us. And as a reminder, it is an open platform. Anyone can list their candidacy there, and it's completely powered by approval voting. So you can see right now in terms of trending these are candidates that have gotten the most recent surge in approval votes. You have Larry Sharp, Christy Seelock, Josh Whale, Imani Oakley, Stephen Houlihan, Dan Whitfield, Jermaine Johnson, Catherine Fleming Bruce, Luis Rivera, John Fetterman, Alan Ellison. So those are some of the trendings. And then the newest candidates on Of the People are Joaquín Vázquez. You see I added the UBI link for him. Brian Mannix, Stephen Houlihan, Larry Sharp, and Jim Wallace. And then if you're curious about, well, all-time most approval votes ever, Christy Seelock, Larry Sharp, Ali Dalzimmer, Dan Whitfield, and Shervin Azami. And if you're curious about who's got the most UBI votes, let's see here. It would be Christy, Ali, Dan, Shervin, Josh, David, Kim, Erica, Jesse. And then you could also filter by your zip code as well if you wanted. So congrats to all those OTP candidates that are trending and doing well. If you like them, just go ahead and click their blue approve button and moves them up in the rankings. And if you don't see a candidate that you like on there, go ahead and tweet at them and let them know, hey, I didn't see you on Of the People. You should list yourself. So it's an open platform. Any campaign can list themselves. It's completely free. And last, I will give a shout out to the people who make Of the People possible, because it is a complete volunteer effort. And so all of the developers like Ian, and there are other folks who have recently joined the team, and I'll give them a shout out. Hold on, let me pull up the some of our recent volunteers on Of the People. Don Briggs, Jamie Neff, Shay Ellison. Those are some recent folks who've joined our volunteer team, and they're doing great work. Especially Ian Schaefer, who's our co-founder. But Jamie Neff and Shay Ellison are our newest joiners, and Don has been with us now for several months. In addition to our volunteer engineers who make all these kind of new features possible, including, as an example, let's just go to one of them. Let's say you want to learn more about Ali Dalzimmer. You can see here on the profile page, number one, you can click that approve button and moves her up in rankings. You get a link to her site, her Twitter handle, her policy tags, an embedded video, a little description, and then some of her recent tweets about what she's talking about. Oh, Rev Wendy's been tweeted about. We've been trying to get her to list her campaign on Of the People, but haven't been able to do it yet. Hopefully, Rev Wendy, if you're watching or someone who supports Rev Wendy is watching, let her know she should list herself on Of the People. Oh, Lauren Hubbard. He's been on this show. Marianne Williamson. Ali submitting her signatures for the ballot. So congrats. So yeah, Of the People, the profile kind of gives you a lot of action. And then you can filter and say, oh, I want to see other people who support the Green New Deal. And then you can see and discover other candidates who have similar priorities to Ali. So now we were going to thank some of the supporters. Let's see, patrons. I'm going to read them out. Our biggest patrons, supporters, are Eric Sanchez, Tohir, Elizabeth Owen, Tony Perella, Rockout, Iggy, Aaron Sarnett, Byron Hess, John Perino, Rob, Timothy Jordan, Jessica G, Trickle Up, Jean Lim, Muhan Jang, Travis Klein, Austin Began, Mai Zamirez, and Dylan Shell. So these are all people who keep the lights on for Of the People. So with that, I will say goodbye. It's been wonderful spending a little bit of Easter Sunday with all the nerds out there. Have a safe weekend. Enjoy the sunshine, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye, nerds.